Hello, everybody. We are on week 6. We're on child abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence, and the warning signs. This is a 200-page assignment. And on this assignment, it is your largest paper that you've had to write. So I want you to make sure that you follow all the guidelines, you look at the rubric, but then look at this most important thing, 6 to 8 pages. That's not 4 to 5. It's 6 to 8. Your sources will be a minimum of 2, and they'll be on their own separate page, which will not count towards your 6 to 8 pages of typing, and will not count as your cover sheet either. So when you're doing this paper, I want you to look and say, what am I going to write about? What will make me excited to do this paper? There's many avenues you can go on this, and I can tell you most of you should already have started this, but if you haven't, I hope this will help you figure out what you want to write on. So when you're writing this paper, they've given the example of Jerry Sandusky, but there's Megan's Law that's out there. There's the Weinstein cases that are out there. There's the Nassar case that's new out there. There's also, Jeffrey Dahmer. There's an interesting soul. But when you're doing it, look at the history and the timeline of the acts. What brought the crime to the attention of the police officers or the law enforcement? They're looking at the Nassar case now, saying that the police said we were notified. And they had to do an apology last week. The FBI knew a year in advance. How many victims could have been saved if someone had listened? I can tell you on my own cases over long periods of times, that cases that I couldn't bring forward for a multitude of reasons. Very often the victim can't go forward. That the perp went on and continued his bad behavior or her bad behavior. So what investigative methods were used to investigate the crime? We as a society want to have evidence. That's the problem with these cases. The evidence sometimes is long gone. Not every case has the evidence. More likely than not, it's just going to be a statement because evidence isn't there. Think about that. If you have a child that comes forward 4 years later, what are you going to find for evidence? If the act involved, oral sex or involved touching, what are you going to have for evidence? The investigative methods that were used to investigate the crime sometimes are a hindrance because everybody thinks that we're going to have something. It doesn't always work that way. Was there a prosecution? That is so hard because I can tell you that many, many cases never make it there. And if they make it to prosecution, they have a very hard time getting through conviction. I had a case with an 81-year-old man who was mind was 100% intact, but his body was not. And he was sexually molested by a person in the nursing home. He got up, he didn't get up, he was in a wheelchair. He testified, and the person was found not guilty. As I was leaving, one of the jurors came up to me and says, I just want you to know I believed him, and I really felt that he, that man did that to that man. And I said, well, your vote was indicative of otherwise. And she says, well, because it was 2 young men that were on the jury, and they said, look at this why would he sexually abuse that 81-year-old guy when his girlfriend's sitting right behind him? And why would he do that? Because they took it as a sexual act and not necessarily the power control that it was. It was an act of humiliation. That's what it was. It was like, here in your face, this is what's going to happen to you, and you can't control it because you have no power and I have all the power. About 7, 8 years later, that girlfriend came forward and said, I just want you to know, I know that it all happened, but I wasn't allowed to testify. I wasn't allowed to talk about it because he would have hurt me. And I knew he would have hurt her. After, we talked for a while, and I said, I get why you didn't come forward, but I have to be honest with you people. If you know something, if you see something, if you hear something, act on it. Do something. What was some of the significant evidence? What is significant to you may not be significant to me. And very often, people who look at evidence don't understand that evidence changes. So look at that and see what you see. Do you agree with the finding or the sentencing? And if you're looking at something this week and you're troubled with it, send me a text or send me an email. Maybe I can help you walk through it. What was the impact of the victims and others surrounding the investigation? Well, a lot of you in this class are parents, or a lot of you in this class have parents. Ask yourself, how would it impact you if someone you love was the victim? I can tell you right now, it's gut-wrenching. It is gut-wrenching. And I've had to sit there and hold people's hands as they were told of things that they never even knew were going on right before their eyes at times. And is there any other information that you believe should be considered during the investigation and prosecution? Well, I sit there and I think of one of my prosecutions where I had some victims in there that were young children, and they were truly beat badly, truly beat badly. And the pictures were pretty bloody because guess what? When I got to them, that's what they were, pretty bloody. And the judge refused to allow the pictures into evidence because he said that they would be too prejudicial to the jury, and the jury would find him guilty based on the pictures alone. I had a hard time with that. I got to be honest with you. I'm like, it is what it is. This is what he did. This is what they need to see. This is not that little angel you see sitting next to his attorney that looks like everybody's, perfect next door neighbor. This is an evil man. Good news is he was found guilty and he's doing time for a long time. And the other good news is he never will have access to his children. That's really good information. So I want you to look at this and see what you can find. I also want you to look at some of the papers places you might want to look. So these are some that I found you might find interesting. The Office for Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Program, a longtime trainer. I've been to every one of their trainings that had to do with children over a period of about 20 years. They've spent a lot of money on me. Trust me on that. But they also give a lot of money towards research. And you might find a research paper in here that fits what you're looking for. So take a look through there, see what you can find. Then there's this, the child sexual abuse. It's the American Society for the Positive Care of Children. You might be able to find some information you like there. They're a wealth of information. They even have like a documentary on Aaron Marin, the Breaking the Silence. So take a look at that. That's American Society for the Positive Care of Children, AmericanSPCC.org. Okay, there's a nice one. Here's Megan's Law. If you look at meganslaw.com, it will tell you everything you need to know about Megan Kanka. She's the reason behind Megan's Law, a very important law that went into effect for every state in the Commonwealth, in the United States. And how does that law affect you and I? Studies show that it doesn't. So studies show that it doesn't work. But take a look at that. Maybe that's something you want to write about. The Torrington, Connecticut law. This is another law that came, let me find it for you. Thurman versus City of Torrington. There's a movie out there on it, and I think I might have that movie here. A Cry for Help, the Tracy Thurman story. This is where police really blew it, truly blew it. And they changed all the laws in 1989 because of this, including Massachusetts. And because of that, what happened was I got sent to my first domestic violence class as an instructor to teach because of the Tracy Thurman story, which is pretty sad because it should happen way, way before that. It's an interesting story, and it's a make you mad story. So I wish you the best of luck this week. Your papers are due 11:59. Please make sure that they're in on time, and I wish you all the best of luck.